Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I want to have a quick discussion, just sharing with you some of, first of all, my favorite EDC knife, as well as some close competitors, some knives that I kind of almost think about EDCing on a really regular basis. Before I get into that, I want to give you a quick rundown of some of the things I look for just for a knife. And by the way, this is kind of a knife I don't want to have to think about. That's one of the criteria that I'm using. And what I mean by I don't have to think about it. I don't want something that could rust and so I don't want to have to worry about, oh, if I'm about to, I don't know, go for a bike ride, or if I'm skiing that day, or if I'm doing some work outside or whatever, and I'm going to get all sweaty. I don't want to be like, oh shoot, this D2 blade is going to rust. I've got to take it out of my pocket and switch something else. So these are knives I don't feel like I have to worry about. They're knives that I feel like can do just about everything. They tend to be on the sort of lighter use side, but are still pretty confidence inspiring knives. They have to be over 8 inches, but under 9 inches, generally as a regular EDC for me. When it gets over 9 inches, that starts to get into what I think of as EDC plus territory. Has to have a comfortable handle. Has to be lightweight enough. Okay, now I don't have these really strict weight standards where anything that's over 4 ounces or something I'm not going to carry. I don't really care about that. I regularly carry knives that are 5, 6, 7 ounces, and it doesn't bother me at all. But in this category, I usually don't want something much more than 7 ounces. I'll give you a couple of good examples. Okay, so one of the things that I do almost daily, like 4 to 5 times a week during the summer, is bike when it's not raining. And so I don't want a knife where when I'm biking, the thing is flailing around because my legs are moving. So it has to be light enough that I can go biking, or that I can climb a ladder and do some work on the roof or something without worrying about it. In the winter, I ski. Again, 4 or 5 days a week. I do ski. I do ski patrol for a couple of days, and then usually end up doing some part days through the rest of the week to cover for races or different things like that. So between, because of the biking and the skiing, I always want a knife that I don't have to worry about sweating. All right. I want something with a comfortable handle. I want something that is reliable and confidence inspiring, and I want a decent blade steel that I'm pretty comfortable relying on, that I won't have to sharpen even if I had to use the knife a lot that day. So those are some of the criteria, some of the things that go through my head in picking out these knives. And honestly, the one knife that ends up in my pocket more than any other is the Spyderco Amalgam. I really, really like the Amalgam. It's very comfortable in hand. It's got that choil so I can choke up. It's fairly substantial in terms of size and blade stock. It's not heavy. It carries really, really comfortably. It does, for a knife that is just purely flat slab construction, it's very, very comfortable. And so for all of those reasons, it also is on the larger side, which many of you know that I appreciate. So for all of those reasons, I end up carrying the Spyderco Amalgam an awful lot. I really, really enjoy this knife. It's not perfect. It's well documented that the detent could be stronger, and that the lock bar up here is not as accessible as it could be. But even those considerations, I still like everything else about this knife so much that I carry it regularly, very, very regularly. And I often end up having this in my pocket on those days where I don't really know what is coming, but I know I always have a knife, but I'm a little bit selective when I carry some of my nicer knives. Now, I've got the Spyderco Amalgam out of the way. It is pretty much my go-to EDC. All right. However, there are a number of other knives, and these are in no particular order, that I consider about as good, right? That if I couldn't have the Amalgam and I was carrying one of these, I would still feel pretty satisfied. I do have one knife that I'm going to bring in that doesn't quite make the list, but because it's available in a different steel these days, it still sort of does. So let me now move the Amalgam down to the side. I want to leave it in the picture just because it is my favorite, but then we'll look at some others. So another great knife, one that I absolutely love, is the Manix 2 Lockback. feels great in hand, even a little bit better than the Amalgam. Now, it doesn't have as much blade steel, or I mean, as much blade length as I would like, but I'm happy to overlook that because I love everything else about this knife so much. Yeah, this is a knife that it carries easily. I don't have to worry about it rusting. It's extremely comfortable, and if you got to do some serious work, some serious cutting with your EDC, you want to know that it's got a handle that can deal with that. Again, I know this knife is not wildly popular among the knife community, and Spyderco discontinued it, but this is phenomenal. By far my favorite version of the Manix. I just love, especially the ergonomics on this. It just feels so much better in hand than the other variants that are available. So I wanted to throw that guy in there. Along the lines of Spyderco, of course, you know, in this category, thinking of great EDC style knives, Spyderco is going to get a lot of love, and so the Para 2 is definitely on this list as well. And again, this is a knife that, and all of these are, okay, I'm not going to repeat it for every knife, but I'll say it one more time. This is a knife that I feel like I can keep in my pocket no matter what I end up doing that day. You know, if I get a call halfway through the day to go and repair a roof or install a window, you know, take out a door, fix something. If I get a call from a friend who wants to go biking or skiing, I don't feel like I need to change my knife, right? I'm just good to go. I'm like, yeah, ready for anything with a knife like this. And again, feels phenomenal in hand, really good ergonomics, nice blade steel, and so very reliable, very versatile, and that again is sort of what I look for. Got a couple of others. I wanted to put a couple of budget knives on the list. One is definitely the Civivi Brazen. This is a knife that, you know, the steel is nice, the feel in hand is really good, the action is highly enjoyable, and it's a knife that I just, again, feel like most of whatever I have to do that day, I'm not even going to worry about it, right? If, you know, whatever the day brings, I'm good to go. Again, I think I've pointed out before that some of my nice knives, I'm carrying my Evo Typhoon, and my friend calls and says, let's go biking. I'm going to say, hold on. And what we do is, you know, I'm mountain biking. So maybe on a road bike, I would feel differently, but on a mountain bike, you know, you're bouncing and jumping and doing all kinds of stupid stuff. And I just, I want a knife that I don't have to worry about. And again, this falls into that category. I've got a few more. Actually, before I get into the others, let me throw in the Feldspar, but with a condition. This one is D2. And so for certain tasks, if I'm skiing, for example, all day, oftentimes the knives that I carry in my pocket when I'm skiing, they'll be soaked with condensation by the end of the day. And so D2 is not a good option in that case, as far as I'm concerned. You know, yeah, it's cheap enough that if it gets a little rust on it, it's not the end of the world, but I still, you know, I prefer to protect it a little bit. And so I probably won't wear this for a day of skiing or hiking or biking or something like that. All right. However, while I can say that about this, I also want to point out that these are now available in the REM 9, RPM 9, anyway, whatever CJRB's exclusive steel that's sort of similar to VG10 is. It's not, it's more, it's a stainless steel. So it would end up in this category. You could carry it and not really have to think about what you're doing. Next up, let's get back to some of the all-time classics. We've got the Cold Steel American Lawman. This is such a great knife. It's comfortable, it's capable. Mine, of course, has a hollow grind. Now, they don't all have hollow grinds, which is pretty sad, but this one does. And, you know, it's just extremely capable. Probably the strongest of all the knives on this list. This would be the one that, you know, would probably take the most abuse before having any issues, which is always nice, but it also carries really, really well. It has a great steel. It does everything from, you know, slicing vegetables to, you know, doing survival tasks in the woods. So again, just the knife that you would never need to take out of your pocket. It's just whatever the day has, that knife is up to the task. Another knife that fits that category well is, of course, the Benchmade. This is the Super Freek. Freek, and I definitely prefer it over the Freek. I suspect, guys, I keep saying this, and I hope Benchmade doesn't make a liar out of me. I strongly suspect we'll see an S90V version of this like we did with the Mini. Maybe not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. M4 is great steel. The only reason this one makes the list, though, I would normally take an M4 blade off the list because of the potential for rust. However, with this coating, you don't really have to worry about rust. Yeah, you could get a little bit of rust forming along the secondary bevel there. That's not going to be the end of the world. You know, a quick strop or a quick hone and you'll clean that off and be good to go. So Benchmade Super Freek is another knife that has to go on this list. The last knife I've got for you is the Real Steel H6. Now this is a little on the heavy side compared especially to the Rat Model 1, but I like the feel in hand a little bit more, actually quite a bit more than the Rat Model 1. Because of that, this one made the list over the Rat 1. I did kind of look at both of them, but this one is the one we went with. This is a very, very underappreciated knife. It's really, really phenomenal. As an EDC knife, it's a little heavier duty than a lot of liner locks and just a very capable folder. Now, there are a bunch of variations here. I don't know which one this is. You know, but there's like an elegance one and there's an expensive one that I think is an S35VN. And anyway, there are a bunch of these out there. All of them I think are pretty darn good. This one happens to be my favorite. Very beefy, very confidence inspiring, and not too expensive, with, again, great steel that will hold an edge really well. 14C28N steel, absolutely a big fan of it. So those are my short list of knives that I reach for when I'm just not sure what's going to happen that day. You know, if I know I'm going to be in the office all day, I'll probably grab something fancier. If I know, you know, I'm going to be outdoors or doing something that may require a harder use knife, maybe I'll grab the Formax or a larger cold steel that day. But if it's one of those days where, man, I'm not sure what's going to happen and I just want a versatile knife that can do all of it, the primary one I'm going to reach for is going to be the Amalgam. But then all of these others also come into consideration and I think make fantastic options for anybody watching this. If you're looking for recommendations, yeah, every one of these I think is great. For me, they all work. And the nice thing about this, and I guess the variation that I'm kind of taking with this video, are all of these knives are knives that I feel like I don't have to worry about, right? I can just drop it in my pocket and it doesn't matter if I'm doing construction or going for a run or biking or whatever the case may be. I'm good to go. I'm not going to have to worry about rust. I'm not going to have to worry about problems. I can just go off and do what I have to do and not think about my knife. So there you go, guys. Maybe we'll title this video "Knives You Don't Have to Think About." But really, I also wanted to point out that this is my most carried knife and my most sort of my favorite as a general all-around EDC. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out those channel sponsors. They do have some of these knives in stock. And if you pick one up from there, you can save yourself 10% using Sharp Stuff at White Mountain Knives, or 15% with that same discount code at Southern Edge Knife Works. We will talk to you soon.